Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast. This is episode 4. And today we have a very special guest, life coach, confidence coach, and school principal, Alec Jiggins. Welcome, Alec. How are you?
I'm really well, Youssef. Mo, thank you ever so much for inviting me. It's really great to catch up with you guys again.
Yes, it's been a long time over summer. And to everyone that doesn't know, we used to go to the school that he's the principal at. So he's our school principal, and we've come a long way. Now we're here recording a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's start off by just about your early journey, how you started. Small introduction about yourself, yes.
Okay. So it's quite ironic being a school principal now because I was not the particularly best student at school. When I was 18, I did okay in my A-levels, but didn't get the grades that I needed to go to college.
Okay.
So I had this real passion, this real burning desire to be a journalist. And age 18, without being able to go on to college, I was like, how am I going to make this happen? So I knew that I could do it. I had this real belief, this real confidence in myself. So I just sat down with an old typewriter and started churning out like letters and sending out CVs.
Yeah.
100, 200, 300, 400, nothing. No
Wow.
replies.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Too many.
Old style, mate.
Yeah.
You're not talking about, modern printers. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got the confidence
Yeah.
and I know I've got the skills. So something in this equation isn't producing the results that I need. So I have to shift what I'm doing, the actions that I'm taking.
Yeah.
So I thought, what else can I do other than sit here, in my bedroom and send these letters? So I started going out to different meetings and different events and putting myself a bit out there.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy when you're not getting results to kind of pull in
Yeah, that's true.
and say I'm failing, something wrong. So at a chance, I was training in Wing Chun Kung Fu at the time.
Oh,
Yeah, and a chance encounter with this guy at a training session. Got chatting with him, and he was a journalist.
wow.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
And we started chatting as we were sparring, and at the end of the evening, and he said, look, we've got a position in the company, a very junior position for a runner. Literally, you go around the newsroom and go around the different parts of the publishing company, and you do odd jobs, and that's how you kind of get your foot in the door.
Exactly.
Okay, so like at the start, it was just like a small position. You're not actually like reporting anything, but you're just
Yeah.
kind of like spectating.
That's
to
it,
get,
yeah.
to get you going. Okay.
So I went in, I had an interview, I got the job, and it was part of the Mirror Group.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they had a huge publishing company. So the Mirror, but they also had all these other titles behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Business titles, B2B, B2C kind of titles.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I started off literally editing press releases, making cups of coffee, taking, this is back in the days when cameras still had like rolls of film.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would
Yeah.
like switch out the roles.
Switch out the rolls of film and then little by little, I was being sent out on like small assignments.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
when you start to.
So I just started to kind of cut my teeth and learn. And they had a great training program in the company.
That's good.
So I was going through the training program, and 3 years on from there, I moved to a different part of the company. It was like the commercial publishing part.
Oh. Okay.
So would you consider that to be a step up from?
It
where you
was,
were?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I was shortlisted for Young Journalist of the Year in 1994. So
Wow. That's very impressive.
yeah, and
How long did it take from your when you first joined that junior position for
Up
you to
until
be
Nominated.
94?
3 years.
Three
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
That's a good time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's-
That's,
And this is a topic we were talking about just before we came on the podcast was how consistency
Yeah.
beats intensity every time.
yes.
Exactly.
So it's just showing up every day, and that's what I did. It was just consistently working. I was the first one in the office most days. I was willing to try on anything and
Yeah.
push myself out of that comfort zone. And just showing up powerfully, I was able to move up, and I became in the end. There's a magazine called Trail, which is a national magazine for people who go mountain climbing and hill walking.
Nice.
So I ended up on there as the news and features editor.
Wow.
And after 6 years of working in the media, And it was fantastic because I got to meet some really interesting people,
Yeah.
travel, really live this dream kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, when you're just consistent, like every day doing a little bit, it really helps when you're doing something you want to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you have a passion for this thing, it will push you every day to wake up early, go the first thing in the morning, be the one that's there all the time. When you've got a passion for something, you're doing it for fun.
Yeah.
You're not doing it because you have to, or you're not doing it because, oh, how am I going to pay rent? You're doing it because you want to, and that will, I think, help a lot, of course,
Pay
with the
off,
thing
yeah.
you're doing.
And I think also because if you just intensify yourself, oh, I'm just going to do this for 2-3 days or for a week, it's not really going to prolong with you, and it's not going to show the results you want.
It's about going back down to your values.
Yes.
And you talk there about purpose and passion. It's finding what drives you.
Yeah.
So it's not work. What I realized in my journalism career was I really enjoyed it. I was good at writing. I enjoyed going out and meeting people and interviewing people. But it didn't really hit like the deeper levels of satisfaction.
Okay.
I still write now, but it wasn't really kind of ticking my boxes. And I had in 1996, I had a car crash. I had an accident.
Oh.
And coming out of that, I started to really reflect on my life because it took me a couple of months to get over it. And I started to reflect, what is it that I really want to do?
Yeah.
And I'd always volunteered, even since high school. I'd volunteered as a coach on the Duke of Edinburgh programme, working with students in school.
Yeah.
And in what sense, when you say coach, like what's your day-to-day activity with a student? How, like, what's a coach?
So in that context, I was helping younger students
Yeah.
prepare for their Duke of Edinburgh expeditions and helping them
Okay.
to understand that programme.
Yeah.
Now, as a life coach, it's really about helping people understand themselves and what's driving them.
Yeah.
But that kind of work that I was doing, I really thought to myself, this is something, helping people achieve their potential.
Yeah.
Is something that I really was fascinated by, why people do what they do and
is
how can
really
I help them be
interesting.
better.
Yeah.
So that led me into quitting my job as a journalist and going to train to be a teacher.
That's
So
interesting.
So you at some point really were into journalism and you wanted to do it, but it changed.
Yes.
You ended up wanting something else,
Yes.
which is normal. So,
I mean,
if-
it's really those points of life in your life when you're really low and when when you're down, where you're like you said, you were reflecting, you were looking back that it wasn't the thing for me.
Yeah, it's something when I coach somebody, I say you have to allow yourself space, because if you think of your life and your personality as an iceberg, there's the very small bit that you can see, and there's everything else underneath.
yes,
So when I look at somebody, I can see the results that they're achieving, and they can tell me about those results.
Yeah.
I can see the actions that they're taking, and they can talk to me about their mindset. And those are things that we can see.
Yeah, exactly.
Underneath, it's all the views and the opinions and beliefs that they've got.
Yeah.
It's their priorities and their values. But the thing is, life is really fast. It's very competitive. It's really fast. There's lots of things to do. We've got telephones and social media and all this stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
So it's allowing yourself daily space to sit down and think, how do I feel about this? And how does this align with my values? And that process of reflection when I was recovering from the car crash really allowed me that space.
Yeah.
Because I was very go-getting, gung-ho, hungry, ambitious.
Okay,
So push.
Yeah.
And I'd never really allowed myself that space to think, what is it about my journalistic career that doesn't satisfy me?
Yeah.
So it allowed you to slow down, reflect.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you think if back in '96 you didn't get into that car crash, do you think you would still be a journalist today?
I think I would have carried on longer than I did.
Okay. But at some point.
But at some point, because it's when you know you're not living aligned with your values,
yeah.
it slowly gnaws and eats away at you. It's like an itch that won't go away. And you can, again, a lot of people, myself included, you kind of like push it off.
Yeah.
It's a phase I'm going through, or I'll go and buy myself a new car, or I'll do something to distract myself
Yes.
from
Yeah,
this
exactly.
feeling.
But it's the
But
reality, you know.
yeah, but it's just there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when you create that space, as I did for myself, it allowed me to connect with like deeper meaning and real sense of purpose and passion. And that's ultimately what propelled me into being a teacher, and then pushed me into further to becoming a coach, because the teaching is really coaching. Yes,
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah, it
Of
is.
course.
Yeah.
And what did you start off by, just being like what subject teacher, or were you
Just
into
instantly a
management?
coach.
I was a geography teacher. Well, I still am
Okay.
a geography teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the interaction between the natural world and the
Yeah.
human world,
Yeah.
and looking at that interaction again, because it really speaks to the human condition, our like
Yeah.
mindset.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, that we know, for example, if you think about global warming, we know that we're damaging the planet,
Yeah.
but we're still doing it because in our mind, what damaging the planet gives us is more
It's-
important
yeah.
than what we
Yes.
can
What we're
necessarily-
doing, yeah.
Exactly.
that's always been my passion, is the interaction of the physical and human world.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And speaking, just going back quickly to reflection, that's what my mother always teaches me at the end of the day, to reflect upon what you have done throughout the day. If you think you should still carry on with this thing tomorrow and the day after, it's just having that 10 minutes a day at least before you sleep or in the morning when you wake up, to reflect on what you're doing today at least, because I think it's really also important to think day by day and not to go too far ahead. What do you think about that?
I mean, now very much the last 20 minutes of my day I spend meditating, journaling, reflecting.
Okay,
nice.
And first thing in the morning as well. It's very much part of my practice now.
Yeah.
I think David Goggins, he wrote a great book called Can't Hurt Me, and he talks about the accountability mirror, of standing and like looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself those kinds of questions.
Exactly.
And holding yourself accountable. And that's very much my thing, is, I truly believe we are who we say we are.
Yeah.
And in a conversation, and then through our interpersonal conversations, we become who we say we are, and then living in integrity with that,
Yeah.
and holding ourselves accountable for that. But you're right, it's that daily checking in and space that allows that kind of growth.
And how have you kind of took all your experiences to put them all together as a life coach? Like, you took the education part, the author, being an author, and then put them all together. Like, how do you think that benefited you in your job now?
They say that your ideal coaching client is you from like 3 to 5 years ago. And it's about going to their kind of like their pain points.
Yeah.
So I can think about, in my early 20s, I was like really ambitious, and I wanted to grow. So I had to learn how to become a leader and push myself that way. So I can speak to people in their 20s about that kind of pain and want to get ahead in their career.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, particularly in their late 20s, early 30s, like myself, who suddenly realize or slowly realize that what they're doing doesn't actually feed their soul.
What they want.
Yeah.
They're just doing it because at some point they wanted to do it, and now they just keep going.
Do you think that's preventable at an early age?
I think it is. Again, good careers guidance and again, education, and I say this very mindful of the fact that I'm a school principal.
Yes.
Education, we're pushing you to get an outcome, so that you can go to the college and the career of your choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But who you are when you're 16, 17, 18 is very different from who you are when you're 30.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I think it keeps changing. Yes.
it does,
Yeah.
yeah.
30,
40,
another 10 years later, it might change. So
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask you a quick question. If let's say a lot of people say that you are who you surround yourself by. So like, if a lot of my friends like specific type of music, I would like that. If my friends like to do something, I will also like to do it. Do you think that's true, or do you think you can surround yourself by specific people but still be your own self, still have your
Think
own
the way
values?
you want. Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think I've always tried to be true to myself,
Yeah.
and my values, my personality. There have been people that have come into my life who've swayed me and pulled me in certain directions. Sometimes, and that's been a benefit.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not.
Of course.
And it's, there's a saying that, no person is an island.
Yeah.
Human beings, we're social creatures.
Exactly.
And we tend to hang out with people like us.
Yeah.
And we tend to look for people like us.
Yes.
But there is a saying that you are the average of the 5 or 6 people that you hang out with the most. So I think, again, that's where putting yourself into different places and challenging yourself to get outside of your comfort zone and the people that are around you. Again, this is why I work with coaches who are further along their coaching journey than I am.
Yeah, of course.
Because I want that level of challenge. I want these people. I've done training with Tony Robbins and Marshall Goldsmith and some of the world's top coaches.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn how they did it. Not because I want to replicate it, but because that they're going to save me time in the long run because they've already achieved that success.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's very true that you can be pulled like in along by your friends. So make sure that you're curating your friendships and maintaining your friendships in a healthy way.
And what do you think also like about the interaction you have? I mean, there is a book I read that's called Surrounded by Idiots. And basically it just characterizes each person by a color, and it just teaches you how to interact with a specific type of person, whether he's just a person who's always in a rush or he's a person who's always excited. Do you think also that we were speaking of like what you think, but what about others? What others think?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, again, because everything exists through interaction.
Yeah.
It's really important understand where somebody's coming from, their context, their communication style, what their hopes and dreams are, what their fears are. Because again, human beings, we're driven both by the positive, our passions and our purpose.
Yeah.
But we're also driven sometimes by our fears.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
A lot of times.
Yeah. So it's understanding and meeting somebody where they are.
Yeah.
And that's really important as a coach. We talk about positive self-regard. So people that look for coaching, they're not broken. They don't need fixing.
Okay.
I'm not there trying to fix people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
I believe that every single human being has the potential to achieve everything they want, and it's holding them in regard where they are.
Yeah.
And then helping them to realize the power and potential that they have.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I joke with my clients, I don't do the work you do.
Yeah,
I just
of
ask the
course.
question.
Yes. I wanted to ask, have you ever been coached
I have, yeah.
before or after you started going to before you started coaching or
Or
after?
after.
So in 2010,
Okay.
it was 2009, 2010, I wasn't getting the results in my career progression that I wanted.
Okay.
And we had this, I was working at a school in Colombia, and this really experienced head teacher who'd set up his coaching business and training business came in to do some workshops in the school.
Yeah.
And I got chatting with him, and I was telling him about my pain and why I wasn't getting what I wanted. And he said, I'll give you a couple of coaching sessions.
Nice.
I'm like, cool.
Okay.
Let's try it. Why not? Yeah.
And I, at that point, I didn't really know that much about coaching.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was myself coaching people in the way that I interacted with them.
Okay.
So we just sat down over some coffee. He asked me some questions, figured out the kind of lack of confidence that I was having at that point in my career. Got me to take some new actions, and hey presto, I got promoted.
Wow. Okay.
And I thought, this is cool.
Yeah.
It works.
I want to learn a little bit more about this.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple of years, I hadn't really done anything other than read a couple of books.
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, I was headhunted by a big international group to go and open a new school.
Nice. Okay.
And that, for me, represented a significant step in my career.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
And the imposter syndrome kicked in. I remember putting the phone down, like my hand almost shaking after that call. And I said to my wife, I said, "Oh my God, I can't do this. This is insane.
Yes.
I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. There's no way. Da 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 da." And by this point, I'd become very good friends with another coach who happens to also be Colombian.
Nice.
And so unbeknownst to me, my wife reaches out to my friend Mario and says, "Hey, this is what's going on," and Mario phones me up. He says, "Oh, do you want to pop over to the office for a coffee on Saturday morning, and I'll show you around the office, and we can catch up and have a chat?" I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be really cool." Go to Mario's office, and he sits me down and he says, "Right, I've booked out the whole day. We're going to deal with your imposter syndrome once and for all."
He tricks you into
He
coming
did,
in.
yeah.
And did it work? Did it help?
did. I got the job.
Wow.
But more importantly, I walked out of the office
Yeah.
and I walked out really at a really deep level, really understanding more about my inner conversations in my head. And that led me to then start my training as a coach.
But do you think it's that one session that just quickly pushed you up again to your confidence level, or did it take months?
It's the actions that I took after that.
No.
So what coaching does is it's like holding up a mirror
Yeah.
Okay.
and showing you blind spots that you don't see yourself.
Yeah.
For example, when I work with leaders in businesses, we ask their reports and their peers and their managers to give them 360 feedback.
Yeah.
And they also self-reflect, and then that will show us where there are blind spots. So having somebody as a coach, really, it's just about spotting beliefs that you have that are hidden, that are holding you back.
Yeah.
And then showing it to you and saying, how did this get created? Where were you in your life? Because you created the beliefs from a positive, wanting a positive outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's really examining that belief, and does it really serve you? And then reprogramming your mind by creating new meaning.
Yeah.
So to explain it in a really simple sense, there's what's happening or what happened, and then there's the meaning that you created around that.
Yeah.
And when you create a meaning about something, you then start attaching emotions and feelings and story to it. So I'll give you an example. When I was about 6-7 years old, I was playing around in my primary school, came in through the back door of the classroom, and the caretaker had taken down the bird table.
Okay.
And the piece of wood was there with a big nail, and it went straight through my foot.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was excruciating.
Yes.
And my teacher started freaking out.
Yeah.
And I thought, it should be me freaking out.
I'm the one with the nail up my foot.
So she's looking at the nail through my foot, which is what happened.
Oh.
And she's creating meaning. Oh, that's painful. Oh, I'm to blame. Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my job.
Yeah. So the meaning that I created was, I didn't look where I was going. This hurts. I want to get this thing out of my foot as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the same event, but two different interpretations of it.
Completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different, yeah.
And in life, we do that all of the time. And we really mess up ourselves in our heads with these stories and these meanings. So coaching is really holding up a mirror and you realizing that there's a story that you've created.
Yeah.
And you then get the opportunity to say, well, actually, is that true?
Yeah. Or am I missing this?
Or
You
is
try
there
to look
Yeah.
for the other stories that might actually be the
Exactly.
true stories.
Yeah.
You said Colombia.
Yes.
So it looks like you've worked so many places around the world. And do you think that helps you with how you were talking about interpretations, how different interpretations, like in different countries around the world, how people interpret things?
It's very cultural. Again, you guys went to an international school,
Yes.
60 something nationalities.
Yeah.
So how cultural and language factors play into how we interpret things is really important. In Spanish there are two words for knowing, whereas in English there's only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Spanish there's a degree of temporary or permanence to the knowledge.
Yes. Yes.
So definitely
I remember the classes.
So definitely your religion and your upbringing and your culture, your language, all of those things shape what you believe.
Yes.
And how you interact with the world. And that's what I love about working with so many different people. It's just, I learn so much from you guys.
Yeah.
That, my understanding just keeps growing.
how big of a part do you think your culture or where you grew up will play into where you end up in the future? I mean, there are some similarities. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure me and my brother were gonna have more similarities than me and like like a random person not growing up in the same place I grew up. Do you think there's a big chunk of your personality or where you end up, what you want to do in the future, comes from culture and like where you grew and like your childhood, or do you think you know your own
Completely.
personality, you can have completely different interests?
I believe that, we're shaped by our surroundings, and by our upbringing, but also we are free to become anybody that we want to be. And I'll give you my own case. So my parents left school at 16. They're not professionals. They didn't go to university. So they were what we call working class. My mum was always at home. She was a housewife. My dad worked in the construction industry. But both of them knew that they wanted to have more. So my dad, for example, did some additional qualifications in the evenings at night school. So did my mum. But I knew from about the age of 12, 13 that I wanted to be a professional. Again, I had this dream about becoming a journalist. And the only professionals that I could kind of look to as role models were my teachers at school. Because in my parents' circle of friends, there weren't those role models. There was nobody in my family who'd been to university. So I was the first one to kind of break that cycle in my family and push myself to go to university and then go on to do master's degrees and then live outside the UK. So I think, yes, certainly your culture and your upbringing does help or does give you a head start. But also, I think, once somebody taps into their sense of purpose and their power, they can achieve anything that they want to achieve.
And do you think it would have been easier for you, or would it have helped if you were from a background
Educated.
like secondary education, people that like if your parents went to university? Do you think that would have helped you in your career, or do you think it actually
Pushed you
it
to
actually
do-
pushed you to work hard to break that no one went to university?
It didn't actually factor into my thinking at the time.
Okay.
I think undoubtedly, if my parents had been university graduates and it was an expectation that I did better at school than I did, and the university was kind of like, of course you're going to university, of course you're going to be a professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I think that would have probably put me in a different path. I don't feel resentful about that at all because it is what it is. And I'm really happy with where I am. So again, I come back to, you are who you say you are, and you can just create that power and that energy in yourself.
So with people who you work with now, with entrepreneurs, businessmen, what changes have you seen recently? I mean, in the past maybe 4 or 5 years, in people's behaviors, how they think.
I think there's a couple of things there. The world has, again, everyone talks about the pandemic and how the world has changed.
Yes.
I mean, it has.
Yeah.
Of course.
I see it as a really exciting time. For me, coming out of the pandemic, more than ever, successful entrepreneurs, successful professionals, it's about the human relationship. It's about the ability to connect with people and to build and develop that connection. It's always been important, but more so because during the pandemic, everything went online. We had Zoom and what have you.
Yes.
But and it was effective, and it was efficient. But it didn't allow that connection.
There's no human interaction. It's a
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
You can't really read the person in front of you.
And I think efficiency dominated. So the difference between efficiency and effective is, if I wanted to be more efficient, I could hire a driver to take my kids to school.
Yes.
Yeah. To be an effective parent, I want to drive my kids to school.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's that human interaction and time with my kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
So pandemic and things taught us to be efficient, but not necessarily effective. And I think, you can do it a lot more sitting down in a room with people. And also I think the pandemic taught us to be vulnerable. We got a sense of our own mortality. And it's changed how people view careers and work and, I don't think there is such a thing as work-life balance because work is just part of life.
Yeah.
But I think people dug into their values again and kind of
Yes.
went, actually, my career is important, but
But yeah,
This is also
this is
important.
also important.
I know a lot of people now, just thinking about it, that actually had like some major switches in their career over the pandemic.
Pandemic,
Mm.
yeah.
For multiple of different reasons. Some of them had to, but some of them chose to, which it says it's interesting. It says
Yeah.
a lot that sometimes humans need something like major to happen.
That pause.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
them to realize, wait, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
How can I change? How can I be happier?
yeah.
And is this what I really want?
And also, I've realized that what I've read is that there has also been a great shift in the age of entrepreneurs and businessmen. It's more younger people now. I mean, for example, the sales of Ferrari has gone down from 40 to 30. So, what do you think of that? Have you seen that also?
Very much so. And again, I think it's tied in with education.
Yeah.
So I started my first business when I was 13 with a friend.
Okay.
We were bored. We were working a weekend job on a farm, and man, that was boring. so we decided, we were going to be hustlers, and we were going to start a business at 13.
Yeah.
And again, I had no reference point around me of what successful entrepreneurs were.
Yeah.
And I think we did okay. Two school kids growing up in a small town. I think we did okay. But school, when I was at school, we were educated to be good employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go into a company, have a career path, work 45 years, get your pension, retire, etc. Now, in education, we're very much trying to educate people to be entrepreneurs, to think outside the box, to really have ownership over their own learning, which didn't exist. I remember, talking back to my teacher and getting the board rubber thrown at my head. Because you weren't allowed to answer back or question the decisions of the teacher.
Yeah.
Now, I would say we encourage people to question and
Yeah.
to challenge.
True.
Because that, again, it's how we all learn. So I think the reason that entrepreneurs are getting younger, firstly, it costs nothing now to set up a business.
Yeah.
You need a smartphone or a computer and access to Wi-Fi.
That's it.
That's all you need to start a business. You don't need a bricks and mortar store. You don't need stock. You are your brand. You are your business. So I think it's easier and certainly more accessible to be an entrepreneur, which is why it's becoming younger. And also the kinds of businesses are shifting. It's more service oriented.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I'm 50. I think I'm reasonably tech savvy. But look at my 18-year-old daughter and how she uses technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a massive shift.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the younger generation, particularly tech-based, service-based industries, are becoming the entrepreneurs to watch.
But do you think that too much of that, I mean, now obviously that creates too much competition. How can someone stand out from that competition? What can they do?
I had some great advice from the CEO of Dent Global, the score app, Daniel Priestley.
Yeah.
And he said, understand the pain of your ideal client, understand it and communicate it better than anybody else. So if, as a young entrepreneur, you understand what's going on in the minds of young people.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about, I was your age 32 years ago. Yeah, the world's a totally different place.
Yes.
I understand the pain point of people in their 40s and 50s because that's my age now. So really get inside the mind of your ideal client.
Yeah.
Who are they? We talk about client avatars. So put a name to your client and think of their pain points, think of their age, where do they hang out, what do they do? So you build up a real picture of your client, and then that's your message. These are your pain points. Here's how I solve them.
Yeah.
And just, again, consistency, just show up consistently on social media if that's where your clients hang out, or if it's in the gym, if it's in the coffee shop, learn where they hang out and just go and be there in that space. And people will get bored.
Yeah.
So a lot of young entrepreneurs start up and they're very intense. They're posting reels and reels on Instagram and TikTok, and for 3, 4, 5 months they're just doing it, and they're not getting any traction.
Yeah.
and it's exhausting, and the conversation starts up in their head. I'm not getting the results that I want.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work. I'm going to take that 9 to 5. And the day that they give up, the next day is the day that their first client comes through.
That's very true.
Yeah, that's the day, because business is all about building momentum and keeping momentum, and that's consistency. And there comes a tipping point in your business where just word of mouth and the sheer momentum that you're building up it starts to take on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And the other day I had a client, a potential client, reach out to me. I spoke to him 2 years ago. And at that time he decided that he wasn't ready for coaching.
Yeah.
And he's just been interacting with my posting on LinkedIn and on Instagram.
Nice.
And 2 weeks ago he reached out to me and said, okay, I'm ready. So this is it. You never know when it's going to come.
True.
You've just got to keep the faith, keep believing, showing up powerfully as yourself, and just taking those small 1% daily consistent actions.
Yeah.
Do you think you coaching people helped you in any way when you sit down and talk to a person and that you're asking them questions? Does that affect you in any way? Does that help or make you feel better or worse? What do you think about that?
It absolutely 100%. I've grown so much through working as a coach with people.
Yeah.
So in a coaching session, I really focus on honoring the client and being really 100% present.
Yeah.
Usually I don't even take notes.
Okay.
I just want to really listen and watch the client and be really tuned into what they're saying. Before each session, I read my previous session notes and I meditate and get myself into a state to be really present. And then the same again afterwards. I write up my notes from the session. And obviously in that space that I make, again, coming back to the concept of space, in that space, they may have said something in the session that's triggered a reaction in me. They may have recounted something. I've had clients who've shared very traumatic events in their past and things in sessions. Yeah. And it's being aware of how that lands on you. And then, dealing with it and parking it off, because it's not taking on their problems as yours. It's holding the space and honoring that. But at the same time, keeping your own space. But absolutely, because each reflection, each interaction gives me the time and the space to then go, I noticed that in their behavior. Yeah. Where's that showing up in mine?
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. So sometimes you use other people and not use them, sorry. Like you look at them and you're like, oh, they're facing this problem. Do I have the same problem?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Using, like, looking at other people and seeing that, does that start you comparing yourself to others?
Comparison is the thief of happiness. Yeah. This is one of the things that I've found to be true. So the first one is comparison is the thief of happiness, because the minute you start comparing, you'll despair.
Yeah.
Because you never compare to somebody who has less than you, to somebody who's further back on the journey than you are.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So comparing is just going to cause you pain.
And that's the problem with social media nowadays. You see videos of people on private jets or living that lavish lifestyle, and then they just start comparing, like, why am I not there? What am I doing wrong? And they just get into that,
But don't you think that can sometimes bring out something good? If you're comparing yourself to someone that is a step ahead of you, some people will be like, okay, what can I do to get there? I'm comparing myself to them, but I'm using it as a motive to push myself. Can that as well work, or do you think comparison
is not?
I wouldn't say comparison. So I was on a training call a couple of weeks back with Dean Graciosi and Tony Robbins.
Okay,
nice.
And they said, what's your superpower? I said, my superpower is I'm not Tony Robbins. I mean, the guy is amazing. I absolutely respect and love him, but I'm not him. If I was to try and do what he does, I would be a complete fraud. I would not be authentic. I can look at Tony Robbins and I can go, he's an amazing coach and practitioner, and I want to learn from him without comparing myself to him. He's been in the business 47 years, I've been in the business now 3 years,
Okay.
full time. You know?
Yeah.
So it's about saying, what can I learn from Tony? What can I learn from Dean, from other coaches?
Yeah.
And then saying, but also those lessons, how does that work for me? And this is the thing with social media. There's a lot of people on social media who you see them in a photograph on a jet. They've paid a few £100s for a photo shoot. They are not flying around the world on a jet.
Yes.
They're sitting in a rented Porsche. I've seen them in Paris on the Champs-Elysees. You can pay somebody 50 quid and sit in their Ferrari. So it's fake.
Yeah.
It's about being authentically you. There is one you.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's one you. You have something unique to give to this world. Through your story, through your journey. Show up as you. Forget all the noise.
Yeah.
Because again, the people that are making all the noise, we can see through that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, that's very true. Is there anything you want to say, Alec, to end this episode?
So I think it's just take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
Really, life is lived in moments. It's lived in being present to what's going on.
Yeah.
Something I talked about yesterday with a friend. I did a 10-day meditation retreat, silent retreat.
Okay.
Back a year and a half ago now. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you've got your own business, you are glued to your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally, it becomes the third arm.
Yeah.
And going to this retreat and handing over my phone, I started shaking. It's like I had withdrawal symptoms. Yeah.
Yes.
My nearest and dearest, my family knew where I was. There was
Yeah.
there was a landline that they could call at the meditation center if there was an emergency. But I committed to basically shutting myself off from the world for 10 days and not speaking.
Wow.
That's great.
And no phones, no conversation, even in the compound. It was complete silence.
Just on your own.
So I remember handing the phone over for to the one of the meditation teachers, and he was like, "You can keep it for another hour. You don't have to hand it to me yet." I'm like, "No, it's good."
It's good.
And I walked away, and I was literally it was like this.
You reach your pocket. Where's my phone?
By the end of it all, on the last day, after 10 days of silence and meditation, really just going so deep into myself and discovering things about myself that have been so hidden.
Yeah.
At the end, they said, okay, you can talk amongst yourselves now. And if you want your phone, you can come and get your phone. And I was literally the last person to go and get my phone.
Yeah.
And I got my phone and I turned it on. And straight away, it was just this insane, ping, 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 ping.
Yes.
300 WhatsApp messages,
Oh my God.
several hundred emails. And I literally turned it on, sent a message to my wife, said, "I'm fine. We've just finished the silent period. I'll call you before I'm setting off to come home."
Yeah.
And then turned it off.
Wow.
Wow.
And it helped me to really redefine my relationship with my phone. The first thing I did was go through I think it's 300 or 400 emails, and realize how many of them were from mailing lists that I never read.
And then you cancel.
You just
So unsubscribe,
Yeah,
unsubscribe. And then I realized I had 7 different email accounts.
Oh.
That's confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just cut it down.
Yeah.
There's one for personal and there's one for work.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it just made me really start to realize with how I was using technology. And there's a Stoic philosophy, memento mori.
Yeah.
It's about living in the moment, because at any moment you can die.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the screensaver on my phone now is memento mori. So when I pull my phone out and I'm got that itch to scroll or doom scrolling or what have you, the first thing I see on my screensaver is memento mori.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
Live in the moment.
is it actually better that I just sit here in peace and go in,
Or
or have a conversation with
yeah.
somebody, or read? Is that better than what I'm about to do with the phone?
Yeah.
So my screen time now is down to the bare minimum that I need to work. And
Very interesting.
that for me is, again, it goes back to this human connection.
Yeah.
There's something I've tried to do with the school is reduce email and WhatsApp use among staff.
Yeah.
go and have a conversation.
Go to them.
You know, we're a small team. We're really close together. You know, we're really aligned in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So let's have a conversation. Let's go and have a coffee. Let's sit down rather than pinging emails and things. So I think that'd be my last bit of advice is, you know, social media is important. You know, that kind of communication is important when you're doing your own business.
Yeah.
But it's the human connection. And that all starts up here with what you're telling yourself, because that comes out here.
Yeah.
And it shows up in your conversations, and that is really what makes your business successful or not, is how you're showing up.
That is very true.
Thank you very much, Alec.
Thank you for your
Pleasure,
time.
guys.
And,
Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Very good to see you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode.
Please share, subscribe.
And
See you soon.
we'll see you next episode. Thank you.